that don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get in the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD and Melissa.
Hey guys, welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD with my wonderful co-host.
Me, hey, how are you?
Melissa. Melissa, how are you doing today?
Awesome. How are you?
Great, spectacular, never been better.
Perfect.
Hey, we got a really good show coming up for you guys today. I'm super happy to introduce Anthony Vicino. He is the co-founding partner of Invictus Capital. He's also a best-selling Amazon author, Passive Investing Made Simple. He's a podcast host, which I'm sure we'll get into. He does syndication, apartment deals, multifamily investor. He's got 30 million plus under asset management right now, an in-house property management company, which everyone knows that could be a headache. So I'm super interested in hearing some of the tips and tricks for that. Anthony, man, thanks for finding time. Thanks for not making it Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
For your listeners at home, they have no context there, but let me just say, I tried to book you guys on Thanksgiving.
I actually think this might come out on Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's amazing.
The Thanksgiving week, anyway.
Yeah, people have just eaten turkey legs, they're digesting, and now they're consuming some educational content. That's the way to do it.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you. You sound like you're super busy, and I'd love to hear how you make all that work.
It's the way that you eat an elephant, which is just one bite at a time. And people always, when people say like, "Oh, you seem so busy," I always say, we all have the same 24 hours. It's just a matter of how you choose to use it, and there's no right or wrong way. I choose to use it. I love building businesses, but it wasn't always that way. The story that I tell is that coming out of college, I had all these degrees, but I also had severe ADHD, and so had like no useful skills in the real world. And so I was getting fired like literally from every job I ever had. And so that set me down this path where I was like, okay, I can't be corporate. I can't work for other people. I have to do my own thing. So I went and so I did what everybody would do is I became a professional rock climber for about a decade, which was cool. It was neat. It means I got to sleep in the dirt a lot, but it didn't make a lot of money at all. So there came a point in my life when I tried to marry this woman, and I went to her parents and I said, "Can I marry your daughter?" And they looked at me and they go, "Well, how are you going to provide for her?" And I was like, "Ooh." That was actually that was a hard question at that moment because I'd never really stopped to think about what's it mean to provide for somebody else. But I pivoted in my life and I said, okay, well, what makes money? Rock climbing doesn't, but science fiction and fantasy authors, they do. So I started writing science fiction and fantasy novels because I didn't have a context. Like that also doesn't really make a lot of money. So I wrote 12 novels, did that for a bit. The woman ended up leaving me. I found myself homeless in the back of a van, really in debt, writing books. So my life was going really, really good. And a buddy came to me and he's like, saw me in my horrible state. He's like, "Hey, let's build a business together." And that was the moment. That was the moment in my life where it really pivoted. And so we went and built a high-rise window washing company, which utilized our skills and our network of rock climbing and rock climbing buddies. And I got the bug for entrepreneurship. That led to a bunch of different businesses, which eventually led to real estate. So this is a really long, convoluted story. But once I got into real estate, it was game over because it's just so simple in terms of once you understand how these buildings operate and what are the steps that you need to follow, it's not easy, but it's super, super simple. Yeah. So I started with a triplex, house hacked it, did an FHA loan, and then started refinancing and rolling the money into bigger assets. And so now we have about $30 million of assets under management. And it's just been a lot of fun. At the end of the day, property management is hard, but it's fun because we get to make such a positive impact on not just our residents' lives, not just our employees' lives, not just our investors' lives, but we get to change the face of our community. And that's like one of the most rewarding aspects of what we do.
Yeah, that's super cool. But the property management side, it's so difficult because you have to have a lot of employees to do that, to make it work. And I think that's the hard part, right?
Yeah,
people that care.
People are always the hardest part, no matter what you're doing in life. And it's oxymoronic in the sense that like people are also what makes life worth living. They're also what makes life hard. So it's like, dang, it's a little bit of both. And especially in the last year and a half, where we were faced with the great resignation, a lot of people don't want to work anymore. And especially in property management, leasing, maintenance, repair, like those type of jobs, people are just opting out. And so it's operating assets and having enough people to run the operations. That's hard right now. Not to mention just in general, dealing with residents and their families. And it's always hard, but it's also where, we're not paid to solve little problems. Like if your value is in direct proportion to the difficulty of the problems you solve. Right. And so the harder the problem, the more that you're going to make.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I should make a lot then.
Yeah, you should for sure. When you're looking at your property management company, does that fall underneath of one of your other companies? And does that company manage all of your guys' portfolio?
Yep. So the way that we structure this is Invictus Capital is the overarching holding company of everything. That's both on the investor facing side where we raise capital, but then underneath of it, it owns Invictus Management, which is our property management subsidiary, and that manages all of our assets. And we don't do third-party management because you get all the problems, you get all the headaches with none of the thanks. So like we don't touch that. And also because there's a little bit of alignment of interest question there where, we have our assets. And if we're managing for somebody else, there's going to come a point when you have to answer the question when you have two vacancies.
Who are you going to fill first?
Who are you going to fill first?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so we've never wanted to put ourselves into that role. And so we just manage our own assets, and that's enough of a headache for us.
Sure.
So structure wise, is Invictus Management being paid by Invictus Capital? Or are you guys just eating that cost throughout it? Or you're taking your profits from the rent rolls and paying 10% or whatever the standard rate is for you guys to the other company?
That's exactly right. So Invictus Management, so it's an operational expense on each asset, right? So this is hitting above the line and it's just, payroll or management, right? And so those expenses from the asset before it ever gets kicked back up to Invictus Capital or anything else pays for that. And the beauty of having your own property management company is that you don't have to earn a profit. Like you don't want to earn a profit. So you run it as slim as you can, and you're just trying to pay overhead and your operational expenses. And once you do that, you find that you can actually operate your assets at about 4, maybe even 3% expense ratio for just property management. Whereas if you're outsourcing it, maybe, net fees, it's probably closer to 10, maybe 11%. So that's where we get a huge advantage because we can come into any deal and know we're going to be able to carve out about 5% more just on that one line item than the competition.
That's very cool. I love that.
Yeah. And so I'm with 30 million in assets under management. I'm sure this might be a difficult question. Do you know how many doors that is?
It's around 250 at the moment. Yeah. In Minneapolis, our market, the going rate for like a B class asset is roughly $120,000 a door, $120,000 a door, which is how we think about, per unit costs. And so I think we're floating right around 250 at the moment.
Okay. So you started out with a triplex and your very next deal was $30 million worth of assets, right?
Yep. You start small and then you go big on the next one.
Right. Well, what did that transition look like? I think a lot of investors are familiar with the house hack, familiar with using some of these loan products that are low down payment and roll it in there. But you're trading up an awful lot to get from a $300,000 triplex to $30 million worth of assets. What does that journey look like?
Yeah. So it starts slow and then suddenly the snowball starts picking up so much momentum. So it goes from like 3 to 6 units and then 6 to 9 and then 9 to 15. And then you start playing this doubling game where it's like 15 to 30. And it starts to happen really quickly depending on how much organic appreciation coupled with value add appreciation you can realize. So for me, I was really fortuitous, or not fortuitous, fortunate. On that triplex, it appreciated by 125,000 in the span of 9 months. And so within 9 months, it was worth so much more than what I put into it. And so I had suddenly a lot more capital to roll into the next deal. Mm-hmm. And that next deal, and that was actually a wake-up call for me, which was, man, I really don't want to be at the mercy of organic appreciation. Right. Because yes, it appreciated by 125,000, but that's only because Dale across the street sold his house for a good profit, right? If Dale had found himself in financial hard times and decided he needed to get out of this house, or his brother sued him because their parents died and they were inheriting this house and they just wanted to get out from it, now my market value has dropped as a result. And I didn't like that. So I was like, I got to go big into the larger multifamily where the valuation is at least a little bit more inside of my control. Right. And so that's what I started doing. I used all my own money on the first couple of deals. Same with my partner, Dan. By the time we joined forces, we had about 60 units combined. And that's when we started taking outside investors' money. And we had a lot of operational experience at that point. And that was important because I think it's really important to pay your tuition at the School of Hard Knocks with your own money before you ever work with anybody else's money. Mm-hmm. And so by the time we started doing that, like we had a track record we could point to, we could confidently look at investors and say, we're not going to lose your money. But we're going to do our best not to lose our money. That's not right. Right. But we're going to do our darndest, and we have a track record to point to.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that key point, a lot of the gurus, a lot of people that we're listening to, they're telling these guys that it's easy, go out and raise money. I wish I would have just started raising money from the get-go. And I think that that's a little bit misleading. One, anybody who has the kind of money or is a sophisticated or accredited investor, they didn't get that way by handing their money out to just anybody. And so I think I'm more in the camp of let's build our track record and slowly, relatively slowly over time, provide proof of our capabilities, and then go out there and start raising the money. I think the only thing worse than losing your money would be losing Grandma Edna's money, that she's relying on. So I do think you have to be responsible.
Absolutely. I think it's worse because I lose all my money. So I used to live in a van. Like I can go back to living in a van. I know what I'm capable of, but grandma can't. Yeah. Grandma loses that money. Grandma's in a lot of trouble. Right. Like, so I look at it as like losing other people's money is way worse. And you're right. Like the gurus, it's like gurus, but not everybody's bad, but you do hear a lot. Like if I knew what I know now, I would go big and I would raise capital, and that's how I would get it. But it's disingenuous, right? Because it overlooks the fact that one, you can't just take everything you know now and go back and do it differently, because experience is hard earned, right? Like the quote is, experience is the name we give our failures, right? Like you had to come by that by making mistakes. And so just to say I would go back and I would go big from the beginning is overlooking the fact that that's not how most of these guys and gals got their start. Like Billy Grant Cardone, the poster child for go big, go big, go big. And if you look at how he really got started, single family homes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He doesn't talk about it anymore. Like you'll notice, like he doesn't talk about it. Like it's really hard to find, but he started with single family homes. And so there's nothing wrong with starting small and building up, because at the end of the day, skill is a great hedge against inflation, and you can't just jump to being skillful.
Right. And you can't usually learn new things and look good while you're doing it. So everybody's going to have some stumbles. And as long as you were acting responsibly, making good decisions, and trying to learn on the way, those failures can mean something. And then I don't think that I would ever give my money to somebody who is like, well, I've never had any problems. Everything's always gone perfect. And all my investors made 100% ROI. I just don't think that that's something that I would be looking for to lend my money. Yeah. And I don't think any of the people that have lent us money.
I don't bet on the boxer who's never been punched in the face. Like, yes, I bet on the guy who keeps getting punched in the face and like doesn't go down, or he manages to get up and manages to win. Like life is messy. Like nobody's expecting you to be perfect. And I think that's where a lot of people they have insecurity, and they think that what investors really want to see is this veneer of perfection and like professionalism. And they think if I show my vulnerability or my weaknesses or where I messed up or my failures, that people won't want to work with me. And it's the absolute opposite. The more transparent you are about where you messed up, but more importantly, what you learned as a result and how you've grown, like that's what people really want to work with.
Yeah. Absolutely. So now you're syndicating deals. You're doing a lot of big things. Are you? What kind of syndications are you guys running? Are you only taking accredited investors, or what's that look like for you?
No, we do 506Bs because at the core, when we started taking other people's money, it was a lot of working with our family and our friends. And we don't come from like really rich networks of people. Like I have 7 siblings and they don't make a ton of money, but I want them to invest in real estate and not just be locked into the stock market. Right. And so I want them to be able to put 5,000 into this deal. Now I'm not going to be able to raise $2 million just off the back of like my siblings and their $10,000. That's not going to do it. So but I want to have room carved out in each deal for non-accredited investors, which makes it harder in the sense that like we have to have pre-existing relationships. So that's why we lead with education in everything that we do, whether it's putting out the book, Passive Investing Made Simple, or the podcast. Like it's all about leading with education so that people can realize, one, like, yes, this is big and it can be scary, but it doesn't necessarily have to be overwhelming. And it definitely is accessible to everybody if you just put in the time and energy to learn how you can participate.
Yeah, I think that's
good. That's
really
good stuff.
good.
Yeah. You have great analogies too. I love them.
Thank you.
Well, he was a science fiction.
I was science fiction. Yeah.
Yeah.
I live in metaphor.
It's really cool. I like it.
So if you don't mind, can we talk about your book a little bit and kind of what your goal was with writing it and what do you think that the readers would get out of it and kind of what path that took you on?
So the book really started because COVID hit and the world kind of stopped, deal flow slowed, and we found ourselves with a lot of time on our hands. And we're like, well, what are we going to do to make the most of this downtime where we're not seeing as many assets and we're not planning on buying right now because who knows what's going to happen. And so we started the podcast as a resource for all the conversations we were having over and over with investors, people who had no experience with commercial real estate. And they would always ask the same questions like, what does value add mean? What's appreciation? What's cash flow? What's a preferred return? All these things. And so we'd have these conversations all the time. And we're like, well, people learn at their own speeds and at their own time. And I can explain this to you when we're sitting together, but you're going to feel stupid to say, I don't understand. And so most people will just go, oh yeah. And they don't really get it.
Yeah.
And the confused mind says no, but they won't tell you that they're confused. Right. And so what we did is we started the podcast and said, here's a topic or an episode where we cover that topic. Go consume it at your pace and what makes sense. And when you have questions, come back to us and let's talk about it. And the book was really born out of that because some people like to consume through listening and some people like to read and they want to go deeper. And so we created the book as a resource for our investors, first and foremost, because there's a lot of books out there designed to teach you how to do what we do, like to be an active investor, but there's not a lot of books designed to teach you how to be a passive investor in commercial real estate. There's a couple of really good books on it, but I found them to be a little bit more like drinking from a fire hose, and we wanted to be a water fountain. We wanted it to be like not scary and overwhelming, and like, how do we make this as simple as possible? And actually what ended up happening was the book definitely serves that demographic, the passive investor, but it also serves another group, which we didn't expect. Which, Melissa, when you're mentioning like, oh, the analogies, like what we discovered was the book is actually really good for operators who want to raise money, but they don't know how to have these conversations with their passive investors. They don't have frameworks for how to explain what's a cap rate or what's a syndication in general. And so the book has all these frameworks and metaphors and analogies that we find operators have actually been really attracted to because it's given them a new way of talking about these things.
That's fantastic.
You're teaching your competition how to.
Yeah, and we did not even do it.
Yeah, well, you know what? No, there's no scarcity mindset over here. I do think it's interesting that you guys targeted that demographic because I think a lot of the syndicators and the people who raise the massive amount of money that we know personally. They always, I think, and it's a little bit intimidating for some of these people. And I think maybe not in all cases, because I think there's a lot of good people out there doing it that are just really smart. But in a lot of cases, I feel like the syndicators want to talk just a little bit over everybody's head. So that way everyone stays in that confused but not certain mindset. And I think breaking it down and explaining to the passive investors what that really looks like is a really smart idea. I know that I know that I don't want to do business with somebody who is talking over my head, but I know that there's a lot of people who fall into that trap. And there's a certain type of person that does real estate investing, and they want to feel significant, and they want to be smart, right? And holding that information just a little bit higher, I think works in a lot of people's favor, but it doesn't necessarily benefit the passive investor when they're going.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like the biggest problem with investing at its core is that it's overwhelming for, I think everybody at some level in their life felt overwhelmed by investing. And it's because there's so many different ways that you could invest. It's stocks, it's bonds, it's crypto, it's real estate. And within real estate, there's still 100 different ways. And like, I don't know about you guys, but my family, we did not grow up talking about money. But and yet, you know, as a society, we put people who have money up on a pedestal. Mm-hmm. And yet we also have a taboo about not talking about finance and investing with our friends and our family and our loved ones, people closest to us. So we feel like overwhelmed by this. And when we feel overwhelmed, we struggle to make a decision about what to do. And so because we don't trust ourselves to make the right decision, we outsource it to other people, to the professionals who are incentivized to make it more complex so that we still feel overwhelmed and go to them. But the problem is you're overwhelmed. You've outsourced it because you didn't trust your ability to make a good decision, but you don't have confidence that you made the right decision because you don't really understand what you did. So you feel vulnerable because this other entity has all the control. And so what we try to do with this book and everything that we do at Invictus and the podcast is not just show you what to do, but how to do it so that you can feel in control over your finances and your investing, so that you know you're making a good decision. You feel confident and you don't feel overwhelmed anymore. And at the end of the day, like seeing people who had never wanted to take control of their investing because it just felt so overwhelming, to finally see that light bulb go off and then them to go, I understand this and I feel confident taking action. It's like the most rewarding thing in the world.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. You don't know what you don't know. And when you don't know, you can't ask. And so I think that education piece is huge. Well, if we had some listeners out there that wanted to learn more about this and kind of find out more about you guys over Invictus Capital, or you know, where they can get your book, show them where they can get to your podcast. I'm sure that there's a lot of value you guys provide over there. I think you've provided a lot of value here today. Where can our people go to find you?
So I would say if you want to get your hands on the book, go to thepassiveinvestingbook.com or go to Amazon and type in Passive Investing Made Simple. If, you know, it's like $10, but if you don't want to spend money on the book, that's totally cool. Just shoot me an email, anthony@invictusmultifamily.com. I'll shoot you a free copy of the digital book. Because I want to spread the information. So if like, you don't really want to spend money on the book, whatever. If you like Audible and you don't mind the sound of my voice, then the audiobook just went live weekend. So that was actually pretty exciting. So you can go download that. You can listen to me for 6 hours. Talk to you about real estate.
I got a bunch of credits saved up, ready to go. I'll do it as soon as we get off.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I apologize in advance. I'm not a professional narrator.
You have a great voice. I love it.
Yeah, it'll be fun, I'm sure. If all else fails, I'll use it to put me asleep. But
exactly.
No, that's great, Anthony. We're really excited that you were able to come on the show. Yeah. I think you got a lot of value to provide, and I'm really looking forward to taking a look at your book.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. That was awesome.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, check out our website, therealestatejam.com, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter @TheRealEstateJam. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at therealestatejam@gmail.com. See you next episode.